Theater of Others podcast. I'm Adam Marple.
And I'm Dr. Booty Miller.
And we're the co-artistic directors of the Theater of Others.
Our goal for this podcast is to build an international community of artists drawn together by a shared curiosity in what role theater has to play in confronting global crisis and creating new, thriving communities.
Each week, we'll peel back the curtain on our own views, debates, and speculations. We invite you to join us in these discussions, even criticize us if need be. Let's find the way forward together. Oh, Steven, I can't believe you just said that about Jack. That's horrible. We'll have to ask him to edit that out.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jack. I meant every word.
Mm-hmm. We love you, Jack. All right.
We do.
Actually, the
I was trying to do my Zoom.
Zoom thing. It doesn't work there. It doesn't work here. All right, Jack. Let me mark it for you for real. Here we go. Hey, folks. Adam here. Got a short, sweet podcast today. Booty's not joining us, and I thought, well, this will be sad, podcasting by myself. And I didn't have anything particularly to talk about either. So I thought, why don't we continue with our Theater as a Way to Life series? And we looked at what our next topic was, and lo and behold, I thought, I've got the perfect person to bring in to talk about this. So the topic is storytelling as liberation, writing theater that heals. And lo and behold, we have a great writer in the company, somebody that has been on before many times, is always keeping the fire to our feet about everything that we do. And I thought I would love to hear from Steven Gaultney his thoughts on this topic and what it means to be a writer, what it means to write work that does try to transform, to touch the audience and move them. So, Steven, thoughts?
That's me.
That's you.
I'm here.
You're here. Yeah.
Yes, just remembering for the audio listeners that I, which is most of the listeners, that my nodding was doing nothing. So yes. if you want to use this chance as an opportunity to check out the YouTube channel,
it's true.
Please do.
You'll see a lot of nodding. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you back, and obviously somebody that can speak to this a whole lot better than we could, Booty or I probably, because this is where you live, right? This is your raison d'être. This is your vaunted place in the company, is to think through storytelling with yourself, with us, and with others as well. So I sent you as the dramaturg, exactly. I sent you the prompt: storytelling is liberation, writing theater that heals. What did you immediately think besides, oh no, maybe?
Not a small goal, liberation, healing. We're ambitious here. These aren't 10-minute plays, unless you know of someone who's writing 10-minute plays that are liberating.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the title's a little bit clickbaity, but yeah.
Well, there's only one Carol Churchill who can write plays that short that are
right.
Yeah. I mean, my thought was, how exciting! Let's do it. Excited to dive in. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. So you're not scared away. So good.
I'm not scared. I'm here.
So
what if I just turned off my screen right now? Just
okay.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I'm still here.
So when thinking about this prompt, we were thinking of what makes a script, or actually we shouldn't even say script, what makes a story transformational. And in the process of writing it, I mean, I know you're thinking about the audience, because when you're writing for us specifically, that's, what we're thinking about. But when you're writing, are you thinking about changing the audience or the audience's journey from beginning to end, or is it less 30,000 foot view than that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say the first thing I thought about was what I'm about to say. I just didn't want to jump into the weeds too much immediately, but yeah, let's do it. Because that's exactly that audience question is the first thing I thought about. And I think something that's really important when you have lofty goals in the theater, at least for me, like liberation, healing, and that is like, you have to know who your audience is.
Yeah.
Because your audience is not everyone. If you try to write a play that's going to like heal the entire world, you're going to end up healing nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, if it's about liberation from what? Whose liberation? This is as we were talking pre-recording, I made a joke about theater's magic. It's one of my pet peeves when people it's like this kind of like, I know where it comes from, and it's from a place where theater is always vulnerable, especially financially, and like we want to make theater as powerful as it can be and as important as it can be, and it the cliche is it just ends up with a bunch of like high school theater teachers saying that theater is magic and therefore it should get funding. It's not magic, it's a craft that many people work for a long time to be able to pull off. And because it's not magic, I think the first thing I think about, and if I forget to think about it, I slap myself in the face for forgetting to think about it. It's a very easy thing to forget to think about, is who's your audience and what is your connection to them? Like what is that connection? Because your audience doesn't have to be the same every time,
right? I
don't think just because I'm Steven and I have my own experiences, I could write one play for kind of maybe an audience over here, and one play for an audience that maybe there's a Venn diagram but it's not exactly the same. Or maybe you're writing a play that's going to be done at COP 30 and then you're doing a play that's going to be done in a New York basement apartment, and then you're doing a play that's going to be done online. Those are all different audiences. So thinking about, I think the first step and the first thing I thought about with this prompt was, you got to think about, one, who your audience is, and one, why should they listen to you? What do you have to tell them? What is your connection to them? Because I think that's how you start towards figuring out how to write something that's can transform them, can take them from one place to another, because I think that is the goal. And whether that's healing, liberation, or just something maybe less ambitious than that, you definitely always want to take them from one place to another. You want to transform them, because if not, then why did they probably pay too much money and spend all their time for an evening to listen to you? So definitely big thoughts.
This isn't a fully formed thought. This is a question, a legitimate question. Do you write for an audience, or do you write for a part of the audience? Meaning, like, there's a part of every one of us. I mean, not in the universal sense, which is, we don't use that word. It doesn't make any sense. But like, you're writing because you don't know generally who the audience is. You're writing for an aspect of a person or a piece of the audience. Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense, which is why I think it's important to, it's why I say, like, you got to know who the audience is, but also who you are. Because like, you're writing for the part of your perceived audience that you have a connection with, or at least that's where I go. Because you don't know. I might know that there are going to be 50 people in the audience, or 100 people in the audience, or 5,000 people in the audience, and they're in New York City, so that might give me a general idea. So when writing a play about politics, if it's a contemporary play about contemporary politics, I would assume a certain thing about 90% of that audience,
Right.
And then in that case, I'm probably writing to that 90% of the audience, because that's most of the people there, But you definitely have to make some assumptions about who that audience is going to be. So you're writing for a piece of them. But I think what grounds it is like what's within you, because that's what I think you're, and plays can find their audience as well too. So it's like, completely unknown play, first preview, your audience actually might not be your ideal audience, but as word of mouth spreads, you know, as people start to get an idea of what this play is, you know,
you can
what
get
the
the
play
audience.
is can find the audience. So I think you gotta, it's a mix, I think, and it probably depends situation to situation of whether or not you're like when we do cop, I think I have a much better idea of who the audience is going to be.
Yeah.
Than if I were just to do something in New York. Even though I have a general idea of who they are. So
it's a controlled environment.
Controlled. Exactly. Yeah. So for cop, you can pretty much be like, I'm writing for my audience. But I think if it's less controlled than that, then yeah, I think you get to ask who you want your audience to be.
Yeah.
And then you write that play and you hope that the circumstances are such that the audience finds the play, which is not always something that happens, but I guess that's a risk.
I was just working with a student like an hour and a half ago, helping them write one-person shows, helping them to put up their one-person shows. And the student is tackling a topic that is near and dear to their heart, obviously, but he's worried about how it's going to be perceived by the audience. And he says, and he asked the question, the question that always exists of like, well, what if they don't get it, or what if it turns them off? I was like, you'll never have any control over that. You never know what they're coming in with. We try as we might to put trigger warnings outside of a play. Sometimes they don't always work. They don't actually tell you anything. They maybe let the cat out of the bag before it needs to be let out of the, like there's no way to kind of handle that thing. And he asked the question of like, well then, is this going to be too navel gazing? Is this going to be too much my story? I was just like, yeah, but we're interested in your story. We're interested in you. You being there is kind of what makes this story personalized for us, and it puts us in a place where we can then personalize it for ourselves. The story is basically, without giving out too much of information about them or the plot, someone who used to be, and we will both know this very well, someone raised in the church who then leaves the church because of things that are thought and expressed by people of the church, and them trying to kind of reconcile, like, I really loved that fellowship. I loved being in a community, but they don't see me as a human being. And so, he was worried that I'm going to lose people who don't go to church. I was like, well, yeah, but people know that church exists. People know that fellowship exists. People know that there are, nice, bigoted people, that those are things that all exist in the world. But in terms of healing something for him, healing for something in the audience, healing something, it leaves a question of how do I thread the needle of going to a place about forgiveness if I don't come in with forgiveness, but can I forgive? Should I forgive? It's a really tightly written, beautiful metaphor. And then what if I lose the audience? It's like, well, yes, that is a possibility.
And I think too, I think especially with like very kind of personal shows like that, like it happens a lot in one person shows, but even just like, anything that's like vaguely autobiographical or documentarian, sometimes what you're doing is you are documenting something, and that is the message to your audience. That is what's transformative. It's actually, I guess there are times where it kind of has very little to do with like who your audience is. If you're appealing to like some like very kind of, if you're appealing to people's humanity, then the goal is just, you just need to be clear, so that you're understandable and that it reads. Like you don't want to lose the audience that way, but if you're saying like, hey, this is my story of like wanting to be accepted and not finding it in a place that I thought was the place where I would always be accepted. I think that's just a very human story, that different people are going to be transformed by that story in different ways. You know, like the person who grew up in, you know, religion of any kind might hit them differently than someone who didn't. But like, I bet that everyone's going to connect to that in some way, whether it's like a family member who they drifted apart from, or, you know, there are so many different, you know, combinations of that. And you know, I mean, one of the great things about theater is we just see humanity on stage, and that is powerful. That is transformative. Now I'm creeping dangerously close to theater's magic. But, and I feel like I'm contradicting everything I came in saying, but
yeah.
But I think that that's what is so, you know, when we kind of like laughed about how, you know, the topic is a big, possibly intimidating one. I think it's because it's like, there are different ways for, you know, I do think that the first step is, you know, looking within yourself, knowing what you have to say, looking at your audience, knowing kind of how you can connect to them. But how that happens, I think, can, you know, there are all sorts of different ways that can happen. And it doesn't have to happen in the same way with the entire audience, you know. Ultimately, you just need to, you know, a lot of trial and error and a lot of iterating. And one of the great things about theater is that we get to, you know, have dress rehearsals and previews and maybe multiple runs, and it gets better every time. Workshops are important. So you get to like put an audience in the room, get to see how they react, ask them questions, and just, decide if it's working the way you want it to work or not. So I know that's probably less comforting to a student who, you know, is leading up to like maybe one or two performances. I don't know what the exact scenario is. One, but they can always do it again, you know.
Especially... Well, I keep telling them that. Yes, this is just the beginning. I only want.
And if there's any show that is, I don't want to say easy, but not, you know, impossible to stage a second time, it's a one-person show, you know. Exactly. So yeah,
sometimes your director will ask you to cut out 45 minutes of the piece that you wrote the day before.
Yeah. This Adam's not talking at all about himself talking to me in 2012 in Singapore.
No. Why would I do that?
To be fair,
it was an hour and a half.
Well, we did have, I think, at least maybe 10, 15 minutes of walking around that I wasn't counting. So there's that.
There's that.
It was still 45 minutes too long for one person show, which is substantially longer than 10, 15 minutes. But, you know, we didn't have a chance to workshop it, you know, value of workshops.
Yeah.
We lived on opposite sides of the globe, so we just had to put it together.
Pre-Zoom. So
this was pre-Zoom. Yeah. This is in the era of Skype and probably very choppy Skype.
Yeah. God, Skype. Remember that? I'm thinking now, I'm looking at this topic again. God, we just chose the biggest words we could. Liberation.
I like it.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you know, clickbait. But liberation. Can you, I've been racking my brain all day. I mean, plays can be liberating, that can be transformational. Can you think of a play recently, or, you know, in the last, I don't know how many, that like you feel like, oh, that, because you talked about this before, the oratorio for living.
Oh yeah.
As kind of something like that. But is that a play? Is that what is that really? But can you think of something where that kind of an experience like that you came close to that, like where the play itself was trying to heal something or transform something or liberate?
Yeah. Can a play do that? I think that's the question. Well, here's the thing. I think theater can do that.
Yeah.
Because theater is magic. Just kidding. No, I think it's more than the story. Maybe I'll disagree with that in 5 minutes, but like I feel like for liberation, for healing, I feel like there are only so many stories that can do that, but even those stories can't do it on their own. Like they need a set of circumstances, not just like good people doing their jobs well, but I think that's, you know, they need a director, they need designers, they need a, you know, an audience that's been primed in the right way to receive that. I mean, it is funny that would have been the play that I thought of. I keep forgetting it's Oratorio, which is coming back actually.
Is it really?
It's going to be at Signature this season. They just announced it, which is really cool.
I want to come up and see it then. Oratorio for Living Things.
Yeah. Which was I have it on my bookshelf over there somewhere. I'm giving everyone an action shot.
He's looking at his bookshelf. He's rolled across.
He's YouTube viewers got a lot there. Yeah, it was kind of a piece unlike anything I've ever seen, but it's by a playwright / musician named Heather Christian. For those of you who don't know, it was done at, where was it done?
Ars Nova.
There we go. At Ars Nova. And it was kind of based off of, you know, oratorios, which were Catholic, can't remember the exact right kind of designation, but like there's hymn songs, and some of it is sung in Latin throughout, and the poetry of it and the orchestration of it's just completely, it's so chaotic, and it was just overlapping. You catch a snippet there, a snippet there. It almost felt like listening to like it's not Philip Glass, but kind of like that kind of an opera, you know, except like if you actually read it on paper, it makes complete sense. It's just so chaotically arranged that you're just catching little bits and pieces. But it somehow, it was as ambitious as this podcast title, and that it seemed like it was trying to capture something essential about like human existence, which is why that's something that you think of when it's like, oh yeah, that's something that's that ambitious.
But it was also
took care of you, as an audience.
And I was going to say, it was not long after theater opened back up again.
It was canceled.
Yeah. During
the pandemic. Like it was, I think they had a couple previews and then it got canceled and then it came back. Like it was the first show back. Yeah. So we needed it.
In its context of it was, people wanted to be healed, and it just so happened to be a show that was about, you know, something like that. So
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I got the final words here of the whole. Spoilers, #spoilers. Jump ahead 30 seconds if you don't want.
Look away if you're going to see the Signature performance at Signature.
The final words are, you are changing, that doesn't change. We are walking round at starting loops and fires. We are not just the total sum of our desires. We are in the mire, not just one voice, but in the choir. And that was said as we were all kind of, I can't even remember the exact, we were all standing as an audience together. So just like very simple, but very much connecting us together. The whole, the design of the house was this like giant, almost like, it was circular, almost like very kind of steep. Risers, so you felt like you were in like an egg or something like that.
Yeah.
So it just made you feel very close to each other the entire time, almost on top of each other. So you had like the design, the direction, the moment that it was happening, coming back from the pandemic, the content of the play kind of just fit the moment. it will be interesting to see. I mean, I'm sure it will be amazing in Signature, but I don't know that you can recapture it.
Right. That's I've been talking about this lately. Of like theater, we're so slow to ever respond to the moment. If we want to respond to what's happening in the United States right now, for instance, we would need. How many weeks would you need to write your play? Months would you need to write your play? And then we got to rehearse that play, and then we got to pull all these things together. We had to have asked for money long before we even started to write this play, to do this. And so like, then we're now 6 to 8 to a year later, 6 months, 8 months, a year later. It's not the moment anymore. We've missed the moment.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that that's what theater, I don't think the theater can do that.
Yeah.
I might be in the minority. I feel like we shouldn't. Well, no, I was about to say something I was going to regret. I was about to say we shouldn't try to address things in the moment. But I think there are types of theater that could do that, but not the type of theater that you're talking about, where you sit down, you write a play, you rehearse it over years. I think for me, as someone who spends multiple years writing plays, and that's an understatement. I feel like, and I think that this is like, rooted in like, a lot of classic theater too. Golden eras of theater, if you want to call it that, which I know is a problematic designation, but they're addressing human nature and what it like for the future. Like it's trying to make us a better person, not by litigating what's happened, but by, if we're being healed so that we can be better people in the future, not because we need to be comforted. It's like it's a sharpening, not a kind of soothing, I don't think.
We're not trying to make agitprop. We're like, you rip the seats out and go start a revolution because of this play.
I don't think so. I mean, that's for like, maybe we should all be doing that, but we should all be doing it's not a maybe, but
we should all be doing that, but maybe,
but not using theater. Like that's a very slow, it would be like, I don't know. It'd be like trying to, instead of a grenade, throwing a Furby or something. I don't know. It's just the wrong tool. But
I'm thinking of like, the stories of, what was it? Who did Persians? Was it Aeschylus that did the Persians?
Aeschylus, yeah.
So like Aeschylus was a war. He was in the army or whatever. He was a soldier. What am I trying to say? He was a soldier. That's the word, that's the word. And the audience would have been made up of a lot of soldiers as well. And then seeing that, that what they do talk about, what we do know of the audience that happened there, was that play was really kind of healing for them to see that. And the same thing with, say, like Brian, his name is Brian Dories, who does Theater of War.
Sure. Yeah.
Who's always, doing plays with veterans, for veterans, with actors, doing basically just Greek plays. But again, we're talking about classic plays that already exist, that are already out there, that are doing those kind of things. And of course, we can't at all forget, and I'm a little hesitant to bring it up, but have to bring it up. Two white guys sitting here talking about theater. Having a person of color on stage telling a story that looks like your life, that you normally don't get to see in represented media of this country or anywhere else, that can be healing. That can be liberating as well. Stories of differently abled people, stories of, experiences that you have gone through because of culture or race or those kind of things. That's also a part of it. So I've been trying to rack my brain today of thinking, because somebody brought it up when I mentioned this, of saying like, is Fairview a healing play? For some of the audience, it could very well be, but I'm not sure that was the provocation that Jackie Sibusduri wrote it with. You know what I mean? Like it was,
I think it was
transformational, maybe, but healing
for people of color.
Yeah, healing for people of so again, writing for a section of the audience, but not the whole audience. The experience is different for a different section of the audience.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's like the perfect example of someone who's writing a play meant to affect different parts of the audience in different ways. Like that's it. And like for listeners that don't know my work history, I worked at Theater for New Audience as the theater manager, which as a title means I was in charge of the audience for about 9 years. And one of the plays we did was Fairview, and it extended, so we did it for like 3 months, 2.5 months, something crazy like that, which is forever in off-Broadway land. And so I night after night after night, I listened to that play over the speakers. I went up to the booth every single night to watch the final gesture of the play, which I don't want to spoil that, but it really, if you know it, you know it. And if you don't, then you should read the play. But it very, very much the end of the play is a different experience if you are a person of color than if you are not a person of color. Yeah. And the audience does move a bit. I can say that. And I think the best, we'll call it the best seats in the house are given to people of color at the end, because ultimately the final gesture of the play is for them. And I had multiple white people come.
Oh, I'm sure.
At the end of that performance, who were very upset with the theater, and of course that came to me. Said I couldn't hear the final. I had a front row seat, and at the end, I couldn't even hear the final monologue. And it's because it wasn't for. I mean, I was a little bound in what I could say, but wanted to just be like, because it wasn't for you. It was for other people. That was not your moment of healing. That was, one of the few times in your theater going life, it's not been about you.
I'll say we did a performance here at UNCSA, and that moment that you're talking about wasn't kept private. It was publicly, and it didn't go over well.
It wasn't kept private.
No. What they asked to do still happened. Again, we're not trying to give this away. I mean, the play's been out for how long now? Like, what are we spoiling?
A few years, yeah.
But what happened at the end happened, but instead of the actress talking to one segment of the audience, vocally talked to the entire theater. We heard all of it. There was not a sense that it was private for us.
I think that's how it was done at Tofana too. It was a matter of proximity. It's like the actor was not trying to project so that every white person could hear them, basically. Yeah. You could still pretty much hear them. These people were just complaining of just like,
I didn't get to see the end of the play.
I couldn't hear it well enough. It's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I think that is that's an amazing example of, I think that is a healing play. I just don't think, I think it's healing for
a segment,
unfortunately, probably no more than 10% of the house if we're looking at like normal off-Broadway demographics. Different in different theaters for sure. But and I think, I don't know, like I don't want to say it's not healing for a white person. I mean, I think you would have to be in the right place for it to be healing. But there is a real invitation. I think what's important to say is like, it's not like she was like, okay, this part's, I joked and said it's not about you, but like Jackie wasn't saying it's not about you. She was just saying it's going to be different for you this time. I mean, there is literally the character who's speaking to the audience invites all the white people in the audience to do something very specific. and that is an action that is meant to kind of put us in the shoes of people of color, which is a difficult thing to do, maybe.
For sure.
But difficult things can be healing. So, yeah, but I think it's another great example, though, of like that is a story, that is direction, that is design, that is having an audience that's ready to hear that, because different audiences, different nights, that went over very different ways. I think that a lot of things are happening at once in that piece to make it healing.
So the script, we keep coming back to this of going, the script is just one part of the story.
Yeah.
The story itself is the script and the hands that have touched it and crafted it and the audience that is there that night. And we know every single night ain't going to be healing.
Yeah. And the world outside. I mean, I will say now I'm thinking of healing plays. I think one of the most healing plays I've been a part of was another show that was at Tofana, but it was Christopher Bayes. Many listeners know Christopher Bayes.
Of course, yes.
Directed a clown version of The Servant of Two Masters, and it was November 2016.
Oh, well,
and I think the second or third preview was the night of that first Trump election, and it's Christopher Bayes. It's a joyous play with room for improvisation, so they could respond to this is one of the rare scenarios where theater can respond to the world around it, and the mix of like the immediacy of it with just the joy of the performers was healing. And honestly, play had nothing to do with the story. It didn't have to be Servant of Two Masters. It just had to be a Christopher Bayes clown show.
Yeah.
So with clowns as character, that was what was healing about it. So
a distraction from the reality.
Yeah, but if it was purely distraction, I don't know if it would have been healing. But the moment that
which is the problem that a lot of plays think that they need to be is pure entertainment for the sake of like, oh, we'll just make it pure entertainment. It's like
no,
that's
but yeah, I mean, I can't even remember what the references were, but like they found it and it was perfect. It was just enough acknowledgement of the pain that we were feeling. But we got to have some moments of catharsis with those performers that were exactly what I needed in that moment. So,
and now, you brought up this word, and we have been doing in book club. We went through the Poetics.
Oh,
nobody needs to read that. And we went through the Natya Sastra. Absolutely something everybody should read. But let's talk about that thing, that catharsis, because it has no real definition that anybody can really agree on what that means. But when we talk about catharsis, we really are talking about just coming in one person and leaving a little bit different, right?
Sure.
Just being a more open, expansive, empathetic citizen, human, maybe seeing something from a different point of view, maybe having the rock shifted a little bit, loosened a little bit, maybe not as fundamentalist of our beliefs on some things, maybe more fundamentalist on other things. Is that what you mean by catharsis when you say catharsis?
I think all of those are great definitions. It's not what I was thinking, but I don't know what I was thinking. I think that there is, and Aristotle's got his thing that he's, uses for that, and everyone has their own definition. Like what I look forward to from catharsis, I guess, like why I want to experience it as a theater goer, is it's something that allows me to shed. There's a shedding of kind of transient day-to-day thoughts that like gives way for contemplating kind of deeper things, and often what the only thing, because we're so caught up in, you know, what I did today and that I was 5 minutes late and that, you know, et cetera, all these kind of, or even much larger things, you know, that are going to pass, you know. I include in these things the things that are maybe are tormenting you all week, but like, they're not, you know, life, death, you know, love, et cetera, you know, like, but there is some kind of like true, like, jolt or transformation that theater or other art forms as well can like bring you to, that gives you some clarity to like be like, oh right, you know, through these actors on stage, I'm remembering kind of what, you know, the ground level of everything, what the foundation of life is really about. And I think that it's easy to intellectually get there, and it's really difficult to emotionally get there. And theater and art can help us emotionally get to a place where we intellectually maybe can get to easier. Like that's, and it might require clowns on stage making us laugh like crazy. It might require a pile of bodies on the floor that's really disturbing to watch die. But it might just be like a transporting monologue full of poetry, but it's something that gets you there. Not all of those would, you know, qualify as, you know, Aristotle's catharsis, but I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Full stop, period, boom. There you go, mic drop. That's, yeah. That's storytelling as liberation. Storytelling as transformational healing. And I think that's also a great place for us to take a break.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, everybody, you're going to listen to the stereo stylings of Booty's daughter, JDB. Jack David Burmester. Thank you, Jack. Wow.
Thank you, Jack.
That was some transformational music. It was gorgeous.
I didn't know that you were blood related to Booty. That's wild.
It's just, yes, Booty reminds everyone every single week that Jack is
his daughter.
His daughter. Yeah. Noted. So this is the point where we always do a question of provocation. So what are you working on? What's on your brain? What did this conversation bring up for you? For the writers that are out there, or the people who are reading stories, what do you got? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I did kind of prepare this beforehand because
you've done this before. You've done this before.
As a guest from times past and a listener to the podcast, I did know this was coming, and you know, because you know, what I first thought about was that connection between the audience and the storyteller, and how important that is to, you know, writing something that is transformational for at least some. I thought as a provocation, give kind of a part of what I have, a part of an exercise that I've used in classes before, that is aimed at getting, I think that it's so easy, especially in a world where we see so many, you know, quote unquote classic plays, to like try to write a play for everyone. And you're trying to, be Shakespeare or something, but that's, you know, fool's errand, and Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare in his time. So like the important thing is to be you, and to write the kind of plays that you know, want to write, and to find your audience. So just three kind of questions that I like to ask people. And that is, first, what first drew you to your storytelling medium? So if you're a playwright, what first drew you to playwriting? If you're an actor, you're just as much a storyteller, and certainly a more vulnerable storyteller than playwrights. What first drew you to acting? What first drew you to directing, etc. Because I think it's easy to get to lose that. Second, what are the themes or ideas of your favorite playwrights or theater makers? What are the themes that they tend to obsess over? So like what kind of things are you drawn to? And what types of story do you find particularly exciting when told using the art form of theater? So just 3 different ways to think about like, what's your favorite kind of theater? Not like the best, that's completely subjective, but like, what are the stories that are transformative for you? And to, once you've kind of meditated on that, I think that's a good lens to think about what kind of stories you should be writing, or you should be, devising, or etc., or trying to get someone to let you act in. Because I think we need to. I think part of our journey is finding our audience, and sometimes you gotta go back to basics. I think what got you into this crazy game where you don't have enough money and you're tired all the time. Why are you doing what you're doing?
Why do you love this? Yeah.
Exactly.
Good provocation. Good provocation. And folks, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what stories you are loving to see, to read, to watch. We'd love to hear what you're working on as well. And the only way we're going to know that is if you go to speakpipe.com/theater of others. Again, speakpipe.com/theater of others, theater with an R-E, theater of others. All one word. Leave a 90-second voice message on there, or you can send us an email at podcast@theaterofothers. We are also on all of the social medias. Not that we are on the social medias, but somebody's in the company's on the social medias, and they'll get the message to us. But the only way you're going to know about topics that we're talking about, the books we're bringing up, the guests we're bringing on, is if you subscribe. Subscribe. We love having new people from all over the world. We can track the numbers. It's really fantastic to see breaking into new markets and new peoples and not knowing who they are. So we want to hear from you. And if this is touching something in you, if this is like, if you're driving 3 hours a day and listen to the podcast, I've met somebody who does a 3-hour drive every single day and started podcast number 1 and has caught up.
Oh my goodness, indeed.
So if you're doing that, if you're finding us after 5 years, or you've been with us from the beginning, we would love if you could send us 5 stars, 4 stars, really 5 stars, 5 stars, yeah. and a comment. We would love if you did that and shared this with somebody. If we're doing something for you, imagine what we might be able to do for somebody else, somebody who might be asking these questions or thinking about these things. We'd love if you could do that for us. And I guess I'm supposed to say that if you do that, Oprah will come on, Beyonce will come on, Michelle Obama, and then Kamala Harris. Really, Coleman Domingo. That's who we're trying to get, actually. So write in. We actually had somebody write in and say, get Coleman Domingo on the show. So we have one. Follow up on that. Get more people. If you make us the number 1 podcast in the world, then we'll get Oprah and Beyonce and everybody else. But right now, Coleman is a stepping stone to.
Before you said Coleman Domingo, I was like trying to think of who is the opposite of all of those people you were saying, and I was about to just throw in like Weird Al. I don't know.
Weird Al. Hey, you know what? Why not? Why not? We'll take anybody to juice those numbers.
But Coleman Domingo.
Coleman Domingo, an actual theater going person that we respect and love as a performer. Thank you for coming, Steven. Appreciate this. I know this was very last minute. Please come and help me on the podcast. But
good chat.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is what people don't realize is that our conversations are just podcasts to each other over WhatsApp anyway.
That's true. That is true. Adam and I send each other like 15-minute WhatsApp
It's true.
Voice memos about the state of theater, and
I've never had a conversation with somebody on WhatsApp wherein I have to take notes. So that's whenever we send messages to each other, I've got to actually write down because
I do the same thing sometimes
because it takes 15 minutes
because I don't want to re-listen to it to have to remember.
Wait a minute, what did he say? What did he say? He made a really important point at the beginning, but that was 7 minutes ago. So thank you, appreciate for coming on, and yeah, folks, we'll be back next week with another rendition of something. And we hope to have you there. And we love you. Take care of each other. And I can't do it like Booty, but bye! Thanks for joining us this week on the Theater Brothers podcast. Make sure to visit our website, theaterbrothers.org, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. A special thank you to Purple Planet for the music you've heard. The Theater Brothers creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purposes of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task and requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? Be sure to tune in next week for our next journey.